It's London Fashion Week and it's our first panel of the day. We're talking about the wonderful Mary Katrantzou, who, whether you like her aesthetic or not, is undoubtedly one of the sort of stars of London Fashion Week at the moment. And I have a lovely London panel with me who will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Cyprian, the Couture stylist and fashion victim.
Tobin, fashion consultant, and I currently head up Selfridges Bespoke.
My name is Carri Munden. I'm an art director and stylist, and I have a brand called Cassette Player.
I'm McMahon, and I'm assistant editor and beauty editor of ID.
What are you guys enjoying of London Fashion Week so far? Millie, tell us about Rihanna. How was
that? Rihanna, I think, was amazing. I really enjoyed it. It was created for the high street, and for that reason, I think it's gonna satisfy millions of people. In terms of what fashion critics will say, maybe they'll be a little more harsh, but I think it's got a purpose, and she killed it for that purpose. So.
Do you guys, I was thinking about this when we were doing our New York discussions, because we were talking quite a lot about the kind of stuff that makes it onto the schedule, and it got me thinking, should we see celebrities being on the London Fashion Week schedule, or would you all rather just have it limited to people like Mary or Jonathan, as we've got later today, who are kind of doing something really fashion and skilled? And do you think there's room for people like Rihanna to show at London Fashion Week?
I think definitely. I think it's fun. We can't get too serious all the time with it all.
It's just clothes.
Yeah, and it attracts a different kind of audience as well, which is what fashion's all about, really.
And she's stylish. She's accessible. Lots of people want to be her, want to dress like her, and and then the ultimate case in point of the success of that is Victoria Beckham. We can see, she's done after her long slog, of course. It wasn't a title she earned immediately, and that notion we have of not accepting celebrities is, as I said, remember, celebrities, because of their very ubiquity, they can now do other things. So yeah, I haven't seen it, and I will look forward to it because we love a Riri. So yeah.
I think Rihanna, obviously she works with stylists, but she never really looks styled. It looks like she's just kind of thrown it on herself.
Yes.
She has she's so sexy and has that attitude.
So you don't find it frustrating? You don't think, I've worked really hard, I've trained, I'm trying to build my label, and this random singer is just getting a leg up. You don't find it frustrating?
No, but I think there's a place for it.
Yeah, that's a generational thing. I think the new younger generation, we sort of you enjoy and appreciate the different elements of inspiration and the different perspectives that come into play, whether it's a singer who was a designer before and then became a singer, or is a designer who wants to be a filmmaker, and so that it's different perspectives that come and then fuel all your work, and the perspectives are new and different and exciting. Remember, we've got an entire planet who can now have access to that work, and you will touch upon somebody who will find resonance within what you're trying to say, I think.
But I think Rihanna's not trying to be a designer, and I think you mentioned that she came out at the end with her stylist, and there's someone else was credited as the designer, which I thought was really
quite humble
and nice to be acknowledging people.
So I totally wore the wrong dress for this discussion, because I want to ask about digital print. So you can slag it off if you don't like it, I won't be offended. But I want to ask about this whole digital print thing we've seen in London, because Jack and you and I were talking about this before the stream went live, but I don't know if you guys all saw the Central St Martin's show, and there was no print in that, and quite a lot was said. I think it was Tim Blanks in his review, he talked about how Louise Wilson, she hates the decorated dress. She would not be loving me today. And I was interested to think, they are the future. Those are the students that are coming out of one of the most prestigious colleges in London. They're not doing print. Are we seeing the end of that?
Yeah, we are, because it's like Peter Pilotto, Mary Katrantzou, the people who captured it and captured that modern technique and used it to such great effect. The next generation obviously will want to distance themselves from it and come up with a new aesthetic, and as you say, okay, Louise Wilson, but do we think it's Louise Wilson, or do we think it's a genuine effort on the part of students? And if it's Louise Wilson, then props to her, because the debate has to move along. We see the Americans still sort of doing print and the digital printing. And of course, you've always got the innovators who start off with an idea, and then it filters down, and it gets common as muck. And the high street will be littered with digital print because it then becomes more affordable, and also because the wider public, not just the discerning few of us who recognize it and see it, like 4 seasons ago when Mary first did it, and Peter Pilotto and stuff like that, so that it is a logical progression.
I think that's the problem with print. It's so easy for the high street to copy it. It's not like a cut or like a texture or something they can. And I think actually for consumers, and I've found that a lot of them don't understand the difference between digital print and then like the print that you find on the high street. They don't understand the processes.
Do you find that, Jack, in the because obviously working in a retail environment at Selfridges, do you find that is still something that shoppers love? They love coming in and just getting like a hot printed dress. It's really easy to wear.
Definitely. Yeah. It's interesting actually, because some designers where print isn't their thing, they have to put a print in there because they know commercially it's really viable. And for some reason, print with the consumer is always really popular. But I mean, what's interesting with Mary as well actually is that when you look at her collection and you see these very directional prints or how they're used in editorial, what always makes me laugh is the customer that buys them actually is not really this kind of young, cool girl at all. It's like a kind of 40 to 60 year old woman that doesn't even know who Mary Katrantzou is, can't even say the name, yet alone know anything about her, but thinks it's a great printed top to wear to a wedding in the summer, or loves the colours, or thinks it's really, interesting, the combination of pattern and colour. So it is interesting, but it's genuinely like an older woman actually that will end up buying.
I think that's really exciting, and you see like older women, or like women wearing on the red carpet seeing print like that. That's very exciting to me.
Quite a lot has been said about Mary sort of being a woman, designing for women. There's been quite a lot said about how her prints are empowering, and it's different to a male designer doing a print because hers are more kind of, I don't know, they're about being fabulous and being a woman. Do you guys think that's true, or do you think people are just kind of making a bit too much of the fact she's a girl?
I personally think it's...
That was a big question.
The woman pipe up.
You're like, dun, dun, dun.
I cannot get involved. Go on.
Sorry.
I personally think it's quite hard to wear. I feel that it's very unforgiving. I mean, it's a print, so it's loud, so it's kind of maybe detracting from being so bodycon, but I don't feel very comfortable wearing it personally.
I think, because I've been following Mary's work, and I've always loved her print as someone that does print. I can see like the hours that have gone into it, and the technique, like it's really like an art, her print. But I feel like when she started out, her cuts were a little unsuccessful, but now like she's really pushed herself and challenged herself, and the cuts are really beautiful. And I think that she's really using print to form the body and show the body, and like I think that is really interesting.
She's been being quite
But you're right, it is hard to wear. I don't think it's to do with her being a woman.
I was wondering while we were talking about print, and the first person, I mean, it's strange that we go at Mary and Marie Antoinette, when she wanted all of these loud, wonderful clothes, and what's the correlation between that or am I? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, there's that street style thing, isn't there? This came up in the last panel that we did on Mary Katrantzou last season. People talked about how it's just that ready market for fashion that's like, it's almost like a different kind of labelling, because yes, it doesn't have like Ralph Lauren written across the front of it, but everyone knows it's a Mary Katrantzou print, and there is an element of branding to that.
Or like Christopher Kane or Givenchy, they all have those like
aesthetic. But then as Jack said, it's like some women, do they care? They can't pronounce the name, but they just see, because women have always liked the decorative, I suppose. And I think that's what Mary sort of represents, this 21st century woman who harks back to the toile de jus, you love pretty floral dress, but you've got this totally contemporary modern woman. And all women, they do have that soft thing, I don't know, and I mean, and that's what I'm trying to say. That's what Mary does.
It's interesting because it goes back to this retail element that I was kind of asking you about, Jack, which is this idea of, if people are going to part with money when it's kind of when we're in a recession, they're going to spend a lot of money. You almost want to get something that really kind of shouts for what you've spent. You know, you're not going to do the whole like just buy a great white shirt because you can just go to COS. So there is that element of like, if you're going to buy something,
you get a
showstopper.
Yes, and Mary definitely with those prints, that's exactly what they are, like statement pieces. But I would, just going back to what Millie was saying, though, I think that they don't necessarily end up being that loud actually, because people end up diluting them because they don't do the looks how you see them in the show, and they don't do the head to toe Mary look. They'll end up doing one of her prints in a jacket, and then the rest of the outfit is very minimal. So it becomes a lot less on the eye, and you're just having that little statement print that everybody knows is a Mary Katrantzou print, and you know they know what you've invested in.
I just always feel that there's just so much identity to the brand, though. I feel that by putting it on, it's not even you're wearing a print. It feels like it's just represents such a rich lifestyle that it's
opulence.
Yeah, which I mean, I have a huge admiration for her craft. I think her prints are beautiful, and the concepts she explores are amazing. And in interviews, she says, you know, that she wants to put the room on the woman as opposed to the woman being all of that. I think I love her vision, but I just can't quite understand how it works for me.
Yeah, when you mentioned that to me, I thought that was really interesting, but that sounds a bit strange. It sounds like the print's almost wearing you, like you're being lost in the print.
And that's how I feel whenever, I mean, I've tried to wear something that, you know, come across her stuff because I'm very interested by it, and I just feel that that something's put on me. I'm not putting it on, which is great in itself.
But that's kind of the fashion at the moment, isn't it? That like letting, you know, it's that fashion victim thing, but we see that with how people like to dress, and it's almost like, it's come up actually a lot on our panels, but that article that Susie Menkes wrote about you know, street style, I don't know if you guys saw that, it was about a week ago, and she said, you know, it's just got to this ridiculous point where people are wearing sort of cartoonish stuff and calling it fashion, and I wouldn't say all of Mary's is cartoonish, as you say. I think
I like cartoons.
Amazing. But you know, there is that element to it, and I think it's a different kind of branding.
The best person to have done anything most cartoonish was the Com collection, where everything was flat. But then, I mean, you know, the collection sold amazingly well. You know, everybody, you know, wanted to get a piece or the coat or the shorts that everybody is getting. So it's that notion and that time we're going through, I think, where people want the absurd because the absurd feels right for the absolutely ridiculous times through which we're living. So, you know, whether that's good or bad, or whether people think about it or not, it's obvious people think about it because it resonates and it works and it's selling. You know, those are the important things I think that we can never dismiss.
I do want to look at the collection, but I have one more question for you, Jack, because I'm really interested in how something like what Mary does translates actually into the store, because we look at it and it is really like, we were talking about last season with those amazing kind of trapeze and A-line shapes and the stamps, and when you actually see it in the store, how does that kind of diffuse from the runway to the hanger?
Well, where she gets placed, for example, she gets placed with your Peter Pilottos and a lot of your young London designers. And sometimes, in my opinion, on the rail, it can look intense. Kind of, you know, you have to be able to really know what you're looking at. It can look a lot of colour and there's a lot going on. I think that scares some people off. But what's interesting about Mary is, from what I've heard, I think of her generation, of all the people that have come out of the MA at St Martin's, I think she's the most commercially successful. I think she has the most stockists.
She's very international in how she sells. You know, a lot of I've spoken to Roxanne Ilinchik about this and about how her and Mary sell really well in like the Middle East and areas like that, where there is that element of, you know, theatre to how people dress
and colour as well. They're a lot less afraid of colour. I think that you know, with what we call like domestic customer, I think is not necessarily Mary's customer. I know she has a lot of stockists in throughout Europe, and I think the kind of Mediterranean women, or you know, there's women that love a bit of like sparkle and a bit of colour and they're not afraid of it. I think it is much more suited more to her prints, but especially the Middle Eastern customer as well, actually, because they love that. They really want statement. They don't understand subtle. It's a totally different taste level. They would never wear a beautifully cut Celine shirt because to them that doesn't look luxe. Or it doesn't scream it enough, whereas Mary absolutely,
but this
like
goes
you were
back
saying, it screams
in
that
China
right
too.
now.
I noticed as well, because actually there aren't a lot of London designers that are like they tend to go for like bigger brands at the moment in China, but I noticed a lot of Mary when I was there.
Oh really? That's interesting. But it is it's what Millie was saying. I thought was really interesting when you said, you know, this idea of a lifestyle, because it is that, you know, it looks expensive. You can tell it's expensive. You know, even actually if you don't know it's Mary Katrantzou, something that opulent and that decorated, and often the structure is so that you'd look at it and you're like, that must have cost a fortune, which is this almost as obviously branded as wearing something like Burberry or a more classic label.
I think it's just occurred to me, it's like les arts décoratifs. You know, there's no surface decoration to it, and it's all done on print. So there's that notion as well of it being pared back, but yet still having, you know, the embroidery and everything else. And I kind of think that's quite clever and new.
I think that's
modern.
what Peter Pilotto are doing really well, you know, doing that embroidery onto the print. That's quite
exactly. That's what I thought would be the next direction.
She started to do more embellishment, and I like that idea of bringing it more like 3D and those different
those
layers
money
and
suits.
stuff.
Exactly.
Really cool. Should we look at what she's done for this season? So, opening look. It's a bit different actually to what I was expecting.
If you showed me that, I wouldn't think it was.
No, I wouldn't either.
I mean, I like that Japanese aesthetic, and it's like the cape, which doesn't seem to die. There are new iterations of the cape every season, and I like. I mean, of course, like, you know, it's the obvious logical step to go after you have that diet of color. You just go to the next extreme of paired black neutrals, and this is what she's done. So from the first look,
but she's playing with shape as well, which is what Carri, you were mentioning. You know, we did see that last season. She started to think a bit more about her structure, not just her surface. That's nice to see.
I think what's interesting as well with that first look, the background is projected to kind of like more of a Mary Katrantzou pattern than actually the dresser. She's now flipping it, which is interesting.
And that's quite strong as well, I think, for a designer to, you know, feel confident enough in their clothes and in the whole performance element of their show that they want to do something a bit more statement like that with their show, rather than just letting the clothes talk for themselves.
Absolutely,
that shows the strength though, in a
well,
sense.
then this is one of the things I think when we first saw her using her prints, her shapes were incredibly simple. But after the last summer collection of stamps and money, she started exploring shapes. And again, it's like anybody who's good at what they do, they will take what they do, start off in small, start off with simple t-shirt shape, and you progress incrementally. And I think this is what we're seeing here, because this immediately from this first look, it looks incredibly calm, it looks incredibly Japanese, and I mean, which is the ultimate accolade, dare I say, for any London designer, to get that so right and for it to look so polished and beautiful, because it looks utterly covetable. And as we were saying, how with her clients who like the bright statement pieces as opposed to us Londoners, whereby you pile black on us and we just feel as though we're in heaven. More black, and we're in heaven. But
Speak for yourself.
Exactly, yeah, no. I mean, yes. I mean, but then that's the other thing. I'm from the Caribbean, whereby I've grown up with the flora and fauna and inundated by all of that. And so for me, even in Trinidad, where I grew up, it was always about less, you know, and it's interesting the way we pick up on these things, and it makes our work more interesting, more dynamic, the influences that come into these things. I mean, look at this.
I'm interested that you mentioned her early work though, because Jack, you were saying before, because I love her graduate collection as well. I think we're both a bit obsessed with it, but you were saying you thought it was incredible, you know, that was like her high point. Why did you love that so much?
Yeah, I don't know actually. I feel like although she's developed massively, obviously throughout all the seasons, I still think of that collection, her MA collection, as just being such an incredible collection, especially with the wooden jewellery that she had. And it wasn't quite as much as literal as it is now, like how she has these like photographic prints and these like the typewriters from a season gone by, which I absolutely hated. Because
I love
the drawing, the
typewriter on
you see these things in a beautiful editorial. Okay, when you see that typewriter on a normal woman, it does not look good.
It does make people want to type on your text.
I have seen that typewriter on all different body shapes, and no. Okay, like, you know, this is like fantasy land where a designer thinks it looks brilliant on, you know, Kate Moss, but when you see it on the real woman, no. But that first collection, it
Wow.
was like a really incredible collection. It's hard for her to have, kind of lived up to that.
I find it really weird to look at it now. I don't know if you guys have seen her MA, Central St Martin's collection. It's so bizarre because you look at it and it is amazing, but it looks so done because you realise what her influence has been.
Yeah, it was so
Because
polished.
I'm trying to think. Wasn't the perfume bottles? It was before that, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, her Emmy
Yeah,
collection.
But it was very symmetrical.
Yeah, it was
and,
really,
like,
and she had
yeah.
all that kind of really big round jewelry that was printed on, and she also
That's-
did.
yeah, that's
But doesn't she come from a textile background, a Turkish textile background?
She's
hence the reason.
She went into architecture.
Yeah.
straight.
Yes. So hence the reason she was able to get it, all the processes.
Well, her family have a furniture making company, so they made all of those wooden pieces for her. That's why they were so incredibly well done.
Beautiful, yes.
I feel like earlier on she was more kind of focused on a woman's body, and now kind of like you're saying, like the silhouettes is shifting as to focusing more onto kind of this picture that she's trying to project onto the body, and it's almost
Yeah, that
losing the
almost
figure.
looks like
Yeah,
it's
but then
you're right. It looks like it's
don't
being
you
projected, doesn't
think-
it? Like a projected
Don't you think
image.
this is one of the clever things, without seeming, without color blocking. Look at how she's manipulated this tram line across cobbled street and that sort of Nelson's column, and look at how, and ultimately it's a flattering shape to
I think in theory that if you're a woman and you try to put that on, you wouldn't feel sexy.
really. Okay, yes,
Personally.
yes.
Speak
yes.
for yourself.
I
would feel
because that's what you were saying. Maybe because you're quite fine and delicate. So these things, I mean, well, please, okay, you're a
got
size
personal.
0 and I hate you, but but it's for that reason you will feel swamped, right?
Yeah.
Because and then
That's
the
interesting because
reason.
then you see an
Yes.
older woman going to the theatre.
Exactly,
Like in the way that
yeah.
older women wear yoji.
I'm not
to-
sure if you're curvy, where do your curves go in that?
This is true actually. If you
Yeah.
broke that tram line.
What
it would-
older woman would wear that to the theatre?
My mum would wear that.
Yes,
definitely.
I know.
She-
Yeah,
she
I
would
would.
rock
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Man.
It's very niche though, it's a very kind of well-informed
But this is a
type of
show,
woman
it's a
who wears something
showpiece
like
as
that.
well. And I think
Yes.
that's about her, we know she's exploring kind of 10th century black and white photography with this collection. And I think it's a second look. She's trying to make a point with
Yes,
the
a
imagery. It's what
statement.
you're
I
saying.
love the first look. The first look, we were saying even though it's black and we're not seeing that kind of
The
Americanizing
detail.
colour, it still looks incredibly opulent.
And you can imagine that
yeah.
coming out and everyone be like, gosh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And it sets the
What do you
tone
think
as
that
well.
is? What kind of fabric is it?
I don't know.
It looks like some sort of latex,
Yeah.
or it's just the print of a nightscape.
I like
perhaps.
the shoe as well. Everyone's doing this, that kind of,
I really
we've
like the
all
shoes.
talked about that length, that
Yeah.
Alex Wang did it, that
Well,
length
this
with
is
the
the other
boot.
thing I was looking at. So many designers were doing a length and it didn't feel modern. And it was either not short enough.
Yeah.
Julian McDonald did the short, again the pelmet, and it felt modern. The on the knee ones and this
Yeah.
length, just
That feels
above
how
the
girls
cuff,
dress.
it
It's- yeah.
feels very modern,
Yeah.
incredibly modern.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, well, what is modern? And I sat there questioning myself, what rubbish are you thinking? But then it just feels
No, that
right.
length feels really, really right.
I like this.
This
as
is
well.
again
Looks
very
kinda
Japanese.
Japanese,
Yeah.
yes, the pagoda. And I like the monastic hair.
It's a shame though because of that Prada collection that I just keep thinking about. I know Mary Katrantzou is not ripping off Prada.
No,
but it's
she
just
isn't. Yeah,
stuck
I
in your
love
head.
that shape. That's a
That's
nice shape. Millie, how do you feel about this shape? Does that curve? with the curves?
I like it, and I think I do actually really like that, but
Yeah.
that would be pretty hard to manoeuvre.
Yeah.
You take a few people out trying to wander around.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
No, but I do like that. I think it was nice.
Yeah. I mean, now that, splitting it apart, I mean, because it's obviously a tree, we're seeing the moonscape and everything else. That skirt's just amazing with a white t-shirt.
I think I like this the most. I like that.
Yeah.
I like the way the image is distorted.
Yes.
You know what? You can tell what she's doing though. She's being like, look, I'm absolutely amazing with print. Ooh, spilling my
Yeah.
champagne on myself. She's like, I'm amazing with prints and I can also do structure.
Yeah,
That's what this
yeah.
is about.
And
You know,
it's
she's being like,
progressing.
look at this amazing shape.
Do you know what I think so far from the silhouettes that I've seen? It looks like she's actually she's really thinking of her customer
Yeah.
and embracing a larger woman, because I think that
Yeah.
a bigger woman would suit all of these looks so
Yeah.
far.
Well, the sleeve length is very considerate,
Yes.
isn't it?
That's nice with
Yeah,
the
that's
shot
really
of blue.
nice. like
Eve
doused in
flying
champagne.
blue, yes.
Wow.
I really like the use of colour kind of. It's
Yeah.
so black and white, and then you're getting these kind of just
Yeah.
like
Well, it's
intense
a tree in autumn, no leaves, no, and it's stripped back.
That rounded shoulder's really beautiful. We've seen that everywhere because people do like the
Balenciaga.
Balenciaga shoulder.
The Balenciaga shoulder.
It feels very fresh,
It
doesn't
feels
it?
modern. And look at the sleeve length, and because we all go out and wear our jumpers down to our cuffs in there, and she's done that, and it's just that little slit on the thumb there, and the slight bell shape, which you like. And if you look at it, you're kind of thinking, oh, is that com that was with the pattern as well? And
You know how I can imagine in this? If I can just picture Zaha Hadid.
Zaha Hadid, I was going to say Zaha Hadid.
Honestly, that's what I can picture in this.
Zaha Hadid,
Wow, she's a power babe.
Yeah, she would look incredible.
Sorry, I'm shouting.
I think that last one especially, you said really strong point about it looks like it's projected.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it really
that's
it's starting to remind me of the Victor and Rolf show with the green screen.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like that.
Yes.
I think from the styling aspect of things, like the hair and the makeup are kept, so it's almost like the model isn't there. They're wearing these works of art, so you're not meant to be looking at their faces.
That goes back to what you were saying there, because I find that interesting because it is not about the woman. And that is the only thing that I do. Like, I absolutely love Mary's stuff, but that's the only thing that I do kind of agree. It feels like it's not about being yourself in your clothes. It feels about
the clothes about. So it's
just
that
about
what
you're
you're
wearing.
saying? So it ties into what Jack's saying about how many women, when they then go in to wear these clothes, doesn't really suit them. But she's selling. She's selling. And I mean, what's interesting, perhaps, the Middle East, where these women wear these things, they don't wear them on the street. And it is the sort of garment that you would wear. You go to your friend's house, you go to a nice restaurant, and I mean, so that her market, she's designing for her market.
And that's much more accessible. You could put that on some cute girl with a nice, really simple low heel, and she'd look really cute.
Yeah. I know. I mean, you could see one of these Hollywood starlets for like the SAGs or one of these young spirit. She'd be wearing one of those, and it would have to be a very smart and astute stylist to choose the correct girl to wear that. I mean, look at that. That's just brilliant.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Exactly. That's brilliant.
Approaching this from a buying perspective, Jack, obviously you can't speak for your buying team, but what can you imagine translating really well to store from what we've seen here?
That last look we just saw, definitely.
Look number 9.
And the first look as well, actually, I
Yeah.
think. Both those coats, I think, have a commercial element to them.
Especially given what you said about her slightly older customer base as well.
And this, like the coat dress, you can never go wrong with a coat dress. All these works.
Everything's quite generous as well, isn't it?
Yes,
There's nothing really
yeah.
kind of like bodycon
But
about
no
anything.
one's doing, but like we've seen that all through the season, everyone's doing that kind of, rounded shoulder, longer lengths,
Yeah.
like bit kind of slim.
Yeah, well, even brands that we expected to see bodycon from, like Victoria Beckham, has moved away from that.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
as
God
well.
for that, isn't it? Because it's been going on for so
So
long.
long, yeah.
That 80s redux, the heavy léger band dresses. And I mean, unless you're Leah, where you can do bodycon, and even when he does bodycon, it's a considered, really, really intelligent way.
That's beautiful.
It's a trouser
Has
with
it got
a
like a
skirt and
tail?
a polo neck.
Like
See,
a
it's all
mullet
about
hat.
the polo
Looks
neck.
like trousers, but with a...
That reminds me that the problem with that though is because that Dior with the black and then the big
Yeah.
skirt is so iconic, that just feels a bit familiar for me.
But I like.
Where
I
is
like,
that train coming from though? Is
That's
it
what I'm
coming
trying to
from
work
the
out, is
top or the...
I know it's from the side.
Almost looks like there's someone behind her.
Yeah.
I like the way it looks like a watercolor as well. Although it's a digital
It's
print.
much more delicate than
Yes.
the others. It's much more whimsical.
Yes,
It doesn't feel as kind of
That's
punchy
that
and-
that Japanese element in it.
Yeah.
Though, isn't it?
Yes.
The delicacy of the,
Moody,
the
isn't
line.
it?
Yes.
yeah.
That's what I like most about this so far, actually, isn't so much the pieces, it's the atmosphere she's created in this show and the feeling that you're getting from it.
But then that happens when we evolve, doesn't it? It happens when we evolve. Okay, the black is boring. Sorry. Now that's cool.
That's really
That's
cool.
That's really cool.
But that's very
Yeah.
much like, that's
Yeah.
like a Donna Karan kind of shape, but with the Mary print at the bottom of it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's nice having
And
the
jersey.
plain and then the print.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really awesome. You can see that
That's
selling
cool.
so well
Yeah,
as well.
that's nice.
She definitely knows who her woman is,
Snooze
definitely,
scheme.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
But there's enough in here, it's kind of peppered with pieces that you could put on some hot girl to get more press, but then the core of it is very much for her market.
I mean, I understand why, because of the price points of these garments, but I would like to see a younger kind of elements. I mean, like...
But do you not think she's been doing young for a while? You know, some of those bubble hem, that really floral collection.
I don't know. I'm thinking of other designers like Basso and Brooke, who like were real pioneers of digital print. But like, I really love them and I love their print, but a lot of the pieces I couldn't see myself wearing, apart from the resort collections and stuff like that. And like, I know, nice to see some.
I like this as well. Look at that. That's very simple, cool.
The hair's really, really great. The hair.
I know the monastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's good.
I'd wear that.
Yeah, I'd wear that. That's hot.
We have to choose what we wear from the
just shopping.
We have to choose what we wear.
I don't do print, so it wouldn't be any of it at all, unfortunately.
Print sometimes.
Is this, we mentioned when we were talking right before we even looked at the collection, we were saying how kind of we were touching on how we'd like to see her take her brand forward, and we mentioned things like structure and shape. So you guys quite happy to see this because it feels like, you know, there's a life beyond digital print for Mary Katrantzou.
Yes. I mean, I think she's developed. I mean, the thing about it, as I kept saying, it's not about surface detail, it's about the print. And I think there's almost an element of couture to this, so that it's like you're not just getting surface decoration, but it being a print. And what she's developing are the shapes with it, because that shape, look number 19, that's very couture. You know, like that looks almost like Madame Grey, and you know, it's just beautiful. And then the way she's got the trouser, because a slim trouser under a long dress is quite a modern way to look. I mean, what will be absolutely genius is if you can access the pockets in that, because as we've realized in lots of couture, even Valentino and all the dresses, the woman has the capacity to put her hands in her pockets.
Yeah, that was a huge thing this season.
Exactly, you could put your hand in your pocket. So I mean, and look at the cape and the way it's folded and the drape. And obviously it's the type of fabric as well that she's using to maintain the shape, you know, which is important.
When I look at that last look, I can just picture a kind of New York gallery owner. You know, it's like her woman is like, I think she's more of a woman that's kind of in art and photography rather than.
Well, she's a smart,
she's not a
strong
fashion
woman,
woman.
isn't she?
But it's not like you know, normally you look at a lot of collections and you see like a fashion woman or you see the fashion editors. I don't see that in Mary. Like I see this more kind of arty woman.
It's like a middle-aged.
No,
intelligent,
I attended a function the other day. I must say, I attended a function the other day, and we keep thinking that. And there were 6 women, a friend of mine, we were going together, and she wanted to wear her Prada bejeweled thing. I said, no, do not. No, but I want to wear. I said, no, don't. And she wore Yoji. When we got to the function, there was 8 women wearing the different iterations of the Prada thing, and I don't think they were gallery owners. So this is what I'm saying. And look, number 19, there are women out there, they go to functions that we would probably never in our lives go to. I was fortunate, I suppose. And
pure
Are we talking about society ladies?
Society ladies, rich, do you go to charity, you go to galas and the ticket cost benefits, and women wear those things.
But maybe they're the women that the prints wear them, whereas the gallerists that are stronger and they wear
I mean, a gallery,
they don't allow the
get me
clothes to wear
wrong,
them,
the
they
gallery
have more
is a
confidence.
shorthand code for an arty woman and stuff like that. But I think because so many women have moved on, and you know, don't forget we've got lots of hedge fund wives and women, or women who are successful in their own right, right, and want to prove their status, as opposed to in the 80s wearing a power shoulder jacket. That's what you'd wear.
We've talked about this quite a lot in other discussions about how it's the kind of clothes she does it's this change of economy, isn't it? So it's no longer boyfriends and husbands buying clothes for women, it's women having the money to buy it themselves. And if you think, if you were a successful woman, if you were like 40 or 50, you worked in a gallery, you know, this is
Well,
what
you
you
ran.
You
want.
don't work in a
You
gallery.
ran.
This is the woman that owns
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Let's get that right.
It isn't even working in a gallery. This is
such a cool look. You know, that's a look that a woman buys for a woman to impress another woman.
That's
You know,
the
she doesn't give a
objection
shit what
I
her
take
husband
about it. It's not a galleryist anymore, but it's a woman who runs a major blue chip company. That's what I think it is. And she will have the luxury and confidence. I own the world, just like men with their fast cars and their young totty. Young women now with that power and sense of self want those clothes. And even the ones, if, you know, who want to defy convention, and they are the trophy wives, they want to say, well, I'm still in control of the purse, not my purse, but the purse. And you know, so
it's first step for women. It's
for
first step.
yes, I think it is.
Second step, Tory boy.
Absolutely, yeah. I do think that's what these clothes, this generation of designers are doing. Women who are successful in their own right. And I mean, hence the reason the term galleries was such an 80s term, as though we don't have women who run large successful organizations.
Yeah, but I think the point is that like it's an artistic woman. Well, it's a woman with an artistic sensibility that would wear these clothes. You know, I like even if you have a woman who's in charge of a huge company, like obviously we're not disputing that those women exist, but they wouldn't go for a Mary Katrantzou
so
necessarily.
loud.
No, I think it's. So
but then, like saying that Anna de la Russo is like a huge fan of Mary Katrantzou.
Yes.
She's almost like the polar opposite of that in a way.
Yes.
You kind of have an appreciation for the fact that she can make that crossover between the two, because that's such a hard thing to be able to do, to kind of satisfy the kind of high-flying fashionista woman,
Can we
and
go
then
back to
the
look number
informed,
22,
intelligent.
which we all loved? Yes. Now that's very Helmut Lang, and we've all grown up, and that look looks genius. And I mean,
that looks so relevant, doesn't it, as well? It just feels very modern.
Yeah, and it feels Alexander Wang. And then the thing about it is, coming from a designer like Mary Katrantzou, you just kind of think, wow, girl, you're rocking Shoreditch big time, you know, and it just feels good. I mean, look at this. How many, you know, Japanese would absolutely love it. It looks like some latex thing, and it's a print. That's the thing that we kept, because we kept saying,
Is it
what's
print?
the
Is it
fabric?
laser
Yeah,
cut?
I think it's
laser cut.
I think it's laser cut. Yeah. I can't-
You think it's?
Yeah.
I think
don't
it's
know.
a print. I'm sure it's a print. Look at that.
But that's interesting to see her work with texture. That's
Yeah.
really, that makes me think that the look before is a laser cut.
That looks like leather. Like she's embossed leather. And if that's the case, then that'll be utterly genius.
That's
as well.
something that we saw in the MA show as well. That
That's
embossing.
important. Yeah, that was
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
That's cute.
That's so Balenciaga. That.
Yes. Nicholas Gisquet.
It's really
It's
nice.
the-
No, that's like 60s Balenciaga. That's amazing though.
Yeah, that's genius.
Does she work with someone else on her shapes? And on
Of
her
course she
cuts?
does.
Yeah, 'cause
Of
it's
course
Yeah.
Yeah.
you do. You know.
I just wonder, because it has been like such a change and such
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously with the backing and everything else, she's, oh, look at that.
That's beautiful.
Gianfranco Ferré. Gianfranco Ferré from the
Yeah,
80s.
I don't think it feels too familiar.
It doesn't feel derivative.
No,
I'm
it
not
doesn't,
saying it's
yeah.
derivative. I'm just saying us sad people, we look at things and we all, me sad person, sorry. me sad
Carri with your brush.
sorry, me sad person. We, you know, you always try to find an antecedent, something that's come before, and you know, and it's not necessary. But look at how brilliant that is. Look, that's cool.
This is so whimsical. This
Yes.
It feels a lot more fantasy, a lot more moody.
Yeah, but it's a waterscape,
But
isn't
that,
it?
you know, again, like every look, I can just see someone in it, because that I can see like Helen Mirren in on the
Yeah.
red
She'd
carpet.
look awesome.
The
Exactly,
BAFTAs or something
yeah.
like
Did you see
that.
her with her pink hair?
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to be
Inspired
like
by you.
She's such a babe.
But she's the kind of woman that would wear Mary Katrantzou.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you know, it's weird, because for me, I was expecting to see this, and normally it's the colour that I don't really like about Mary Katrantzou, but the tones of this whole collection are beautiful.
So, you'll get a print that you can choose at the end.
I think she's just really showing what she can do, can't she? This
Yeah.
feels like a really kind of just a step forward. It's really like look at my skills. You know, it's going
Romeo
back to that
Gigli
Martin
as
thing.
well. I keep thinking of. Look at that. That's very Gigli.
This
I really
collection,
like that. You can't tell which is transparency and which is like a
Yeah.
texture in
Yeah.
the print.
It's really fluid.
It's great. It's very Japanese influenced.
Oh, should we give her a clap? She's so cute.
I've got to say one thing though. It's not a criticism. I just really want to ask her. I've never seen her wearing print. I've
She
rarely
always wears
seen.
black every day.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
But I think that's the thing where if you work in fashion, you stop caring about what you wear.
What you wear,
it's
yeah.
Well,
like-
I don't think that's like always true.
You know?
I think it's a bit disappointing actually. Like I wish. I mean,
You're like, step it up, Lou.
No, because I do like it annoys me a little bit because some designers like if they were American or someone like they have that kind of more polished bit, but
Yeah.
it's like that's the thing about London that annoys me a bit. It's like when Christopher Kane stepped out of the MA show, it's like please could you get
But I
out
don't
of,
understand
like,
why there's
the
this thing where you
scruffy
have to
teenage boy
put
look.
yourself into your
It's just
vocation. It's
Why
strange.
not?
Why not?
No,
I do.
Do you
Why
know,
don't
if you're an
editors do
artist,
it then? So designers, it just why? I mean,
because it's a craft, it's your trade. You do, like it doesn't mean you have to be a part of that. I think like you can work in art without
Walking around
in
being
some
splattered.
crazy.
I think all the pressure that you'd be under all the time as well. Like
Yeah.
you just want to separate yourself from that, and by actually
I
entering
like
into
to
they never
try
get
out
the time,
ideas
do they?
on
They don't have
myself.
any
time.
So it's for that reason, and as Carri said the other day, if I don't wear it, then why should you? There's
But
that
I think you
whole
can have
notion.
conviction in your brand without having to sort of involve yourself in that.
Yeah, it wasn't a criticism. I was just interested.
No, it is
But she's
interesting,
also
yeah.
she always looks really good and like considered. It's not like she's just not
Yeah.
considered what
Yeah.
she's wearing. I just wonder why she does choose that.
It's like the Rodati sisters. You never see them coming out in anything that references the collection they've just shown. And, we don't know if it's a sizist issue. What is it?
But I think there's an element of, I think perhaps with Mary, I don't know this actually because I've never asked her this, but I'm sure there's an element of anonymity to it. She wants her
To
collection to
stand
speak
back.
to herself. There's so much pressure on designers to, be on social media, to be interviewed all the time, to be kind of public figures. And I think if you are a designer, what you wear is kind of the last thing you can hold on to removing yourself
some
from being
designers.
part
I mean,
of
I was
that.
just trying to think. I mean, Phoebe at Celine, she always looks very Celine, doesn't she?
Yes.
She always looks very put together, and her vision is her. She is the Celine woman. I'm trying to think who else looks quite put together or quite polished, but none of them.
Well,
like,
Roxanne didn't she? That's a
Roxanne,
The-
Stella
yeah.
McCartney, some people...
Roxanne lives and wears her own
And
stuff.
that-
She's
and
a little
that's what I
girl
mean,
who wears her
exactly.
stuff.
You
as well.
live and wear it, and and there's that notion too, as I said, the level of integrity. If I can't live and wear it, and I like to live and wear it so that I can know what do I need to improve upon, what fabrications, what cut, how do I feel, is it a longer cut, is it,
I feel like some designers are kind of like putting out something really, they're all designers are putting out something personal about themselves, such as like Louise Gray, that's her lifestyle.
Yes.
Eden Kirchhoff.
Oh yeah,
but-
that's a really good example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then, for example, someone like Mary Katrantzou, maybe necessarily this isn't the woman she is, but this is how she appreciates a sense of beauty, and that's her
Yeah.
creativity for a different sense. So it's not
And that's
her,
what men
and she
do.
doesn't want to project that about herself, but she still believes in it. From a
And that's
different
what
level.
male designers do for women.
Yeah.
They do, yes, okay,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
That's interesting that you mentioned that male element because no one would question why a male designer is designing for a woman. So it's strange that we'd question why a female designer wouldn't wear her own clothes.
Absolutely, exactly, yes.
I like
Always bring it back to the gender issue.
Yeah, no, but I
Because
like that.
we've got
I
to
li-
realise a lot is at stake here.
I like what you mentioned that women dress for other women. They don't really dress.
I was thinking about that a lot the other day after one of our panels, and I was like, I don't actually think I know any women who work in fashion, or just like girls that don't, who dress any more for guys. I think that's completely...
Yes, the days
gone.
for that are gone. It's like there's a website, where's that?
Man Repeller.
Man Repeller. There's no Man Repeller.
I really identify with that.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
Most of us...
It's a blog this girl does where it used to be really great, but it's not as good anymore. But she writes a lot about she wears like fashion stuff, and she's like, the whole premise of the blog is like, she thinks she looks great, girls are always like, oh my god, you look amazing, and
But guys
boys
are like,
Yeah. And then you remember back in the 90s, it was like, one supermodel who just always wears skirts up to hair, and she's a... and then there's the girls who look like fashion victims and they just never get laid. And it's that constant argument kind of thing. But I think that's true of all of us in fashion. It's either fashion or sex.
I personally,
Speak for yourself again.
Okay, I own up. Speaking for myself.
Oh my god.
I say I would personally, honestly, I dress more for a man than I would do a woman, because entering into trying to be competitive with a woman intimidates me one hell of a lot more than trying to be compared. Like, I feel like you can dress for a man in a much more simple way where you appreciate yourself. When I try and dress to compete with other women, I'll always end up feeling far more critical because I'm comparing myself to another woman, and I don't come off well in myself in that way. I think
That's really
men are a lot easier to
I think
please.
women are a lot more critical. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's so interesting, because maybe that is where this whole like manic street style thing has come from, because it is women trying to outdo other women.
Yes.
That's why it's got nuts, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
Really honest of you of saying that.
So what do you think about Mary?
this has turned into therapy.
Sharing.
Do you think Mary designs for women that want to dress for women?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Mary designs for women that want to be like, I'm fabulous, look at me, I'm wearing this incredible print, I'm better than you, I can afford this, you can't.
Yes.
Like, there's that element
Normally
of
though,
like,
like
fabulousness to it.
normally with her past collections, I would say Mary was designing for that woman that wants to kind of be quite that kind of gaudy style, like very bright colours, wants to show their wealth. But this collection seems like she wants to dress a woman that wants to show their intellect.
Yeah,
and show
definitely.
their-
I think there's always been that element to her clothing. I think you're
Yeah.
right, it does really shine through in this collection. But I think it's, when I say better than, it's not like better dressed, it's more like it is that woman who owns a
Considered.
and is
Status.
like
Considered.
incredible.
No,
you
it's
know?
status,
It's
isn't it?
Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Shot
awesome.
that.
You're
Yes,
not.
absolutely.
Let's end on that reference. Really, really intelligent of me. Shall we give her another round of applause to wrap things up?